The mirror in room 23. Emily was a young woman with a passion for antiques. She loved the thrill of discovering hidden treasures and learning about their histories. One rainy afternoon, she found herself wandering through a quaint antique shop in a small, out-of-the-way town. The shop was dimly lit, filled with the musty scent of old wood and leather. As she browsed, Emily's eyes were drawn to a tall, ornate mirror at the back of the shop. It was exquisite, with a gilded frame intricately carved with floral patterns and strange symbols. Despite its beauty, there was something unsettling about the mirror, something that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with a hunched back and piercing blue eyes, noticed her interest. "Ah, the mirror from room 23, he said, his voice gravelly. "It's a rare piece, but it comes with a warning." Emily raised an eyebrow. "A warning?" The shopkeeper nodded. "The mirror belonged to the old Blackwood Hotel, room 23 to be precise. They say it's cursed. Those who look into it at night see things they shouldn't, things from another world." Intrigued and undeterred by the shopkeeper's warning, Emily decided to buy the mirror. She loved a good ghost story, and she thought it would make a fantastic addition to her collection. That evening, she brought the mirror home and placed it in her bedroom. She admired its craftsmanship for a while before heading to bed, the rain tapping gently against her window. As she drifted off to sleep, the mirror stood silent and imposing in the corner of the room. At the stroke of midnight, Emily awoke with a start. She wasn't sure what had disturbed her sleep, but a feeling of unease settled over her. The room was dark, save for a sliver of moonlight filtering through the curtains. Her eyes were drawn to the mirror, and she found herself unable to look away. In the dim light, the mirror's surface seemed to ripple, as if it were made of liquid rather than glass. Emily's heart raced as she slowly got out of bed and approached the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her, but there was something wrong. Her eyes looked hollow, and a shadowy figure loomed behind her. She spun around, but the room was empty. When she looked back at the mirror, the shadowy figure was still there, its hand resting on her shoulder. It was tall and gaunt, with empty eye sockets and a wide, toothless grin. Panic surged through Emily. She tried to look away, but her reflection's eyes held her captive. The figure in the mirror began to move, its grip tightening on her reflected shoulder. Emily felt a cold, vice-like pressure on her real shoulder, as if the figure were trying to pull her into the mirror. Desperate, she reached out and grabbed the frame of the mirror, trying to break free. But the moment her fingers touched the gilded frame, a shock of icy pain shot through her. She screamed, and the mirror's surface seemed to explode in a burst of blinding light. When the light faded, Emily found herself standing in a dimly lit hallway. It was old and decrepit, with peeling wallpaper and broken furniture. She realized with horror that she was inside the mirror. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions, and she could hear faint whispers echoing through the darkness. The shadowy figure appeared at the end of the hallway, its empty eyes fixed on her. Emily turned and ran, her footsteps echoing loudly in the silence. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she had to escape. As she ran, she passed other mirrors hanging on the walls, each one showing glimpses of different places and times. Some showed her own world, her bedroom, and the antique shop. Others showed strange, otherworldly landscapes filled with grotesque creatures and nightmarish visions. Emily ran until her legs gave out, collapsing in front of a large, ornate mirror at the end of the hallway. She looked up and saw her bedroom on the other side. Her body lay motionless on the floor, and the shadowy figure stood over it, its grin wider than ever. She pounded on the glass, screaming for help, but no sound came out. The figure in her bedroom turned and looked directly at her, its empty eyes filled with malice. It raised a bony hand and placed it on the glass, and Emily felt a cold hand close around her throat. She gasped for breath, her vision fading as the figure squeezed tighter. Just before she lost consciousness, she heard the shopkeeper's voice echoing in her mind. "Those who look into the mirror at night see things they shouldn't, things from another world." Emily's vision went black, and the last thing she saw was her own terrified face staring back at her from the other side of the glass. The next morning, the antique shop's doorbell chimed as a customer walked in. The shopkeeper greeted them with a nod and a smile. In the corner of the shop, the mirror from room 23 stood silent and imposing, its surface as smooth as glass, and if you